Mark Caro, and welcome to episode 110 of Caropop. Our guest this week is someone with one of rock's golden voices, and he also happens to have written some sublime songs. Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues. Hayward joined the British band in 1966 as a replacement for previous Caropop guest Denny Laine. The early incarnation of the Moody Blues had an R&B flavor, with the lineup featuring singer-guitarist Hayward and fellow newcomer, bassist John Lodge, as well as drummer Graham Edge, multi-instrumentalist Ray Thomas, and keyboardist Mike Pinder, would incorporate classical music, psychedelia, and progressive rock. How much did being in the Moody Blues shape Hayward's songwriting? And how much did Hayward's songwriting shape the Moody Blues? His first album with the band, 1967's Days of Future Past, was a concept record that featured orchestral interludes as a cover today from Dawn to Nights in White Satin. The latter song was one of Hayward's two songwriting contributions, the other being Forever Afternoon, Tuesday, aka Tuesday Afternoon. Those are the album's two most enduring songs, with Nights in White Satin becoming a worldwide smash when re-released in 1972. Did Hayward write those songs with the album's concept in mind? When he wrote Tuesday Afternoon, was that mid-song tempo change part of it from the beginning? Did he especially enjoy writing songs with multiple distinct parts, such as Question? Was it helpful or frustrating to have all five band members writing songs for those early albums, which also included In Search of the Lost Chord and On the Threshold of a Dream? Did Hayward write songs to match those albums' concepts? Did he feel pressure to write the singles? How, during the band's 6-year break in the 1970s, did he wind up recording a solo song backed by 10cc? When Long Distance Voyager was released in 1981, the Moody Blues entered a poppier phase, with Hayward and Lodge dominating the songwriting. Did he appreciate this new dynamic? Hayward's The Voice was a standout on Long Distance Voyager. A couple albums later, Hayward's synth-driven Your Wildest Dreams became the Moody Blues' most popular song since Nights in White Satin, introducing the band to a new audience. Both The Voice and Your Wildest Dreams feature long, adventurous bridges, so of course I ask him about that. Hayward recently completed a U.S. solo tour and has more dates scheduled for 2024. When he performs now, do the fans come more for the band's early material, or that 80s stretch, or some other time? Does he feel more emotionally connected to songs from one era or another? Would he ever consider playing with the surviving Moody Blues again? And how did he feel about King Charles awarding him an OBE, that is, Officer of the Order of the British Empire, in July? He's royalty in our book too. Please enjoy this Caropop conversation with Justin Hayward. Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mark.
I noticed that your set list it really covers the gamut of your songwriting from the 60s and 70s through 80s hits and, more current stuff that you've done for solo projects. And I'm wondering if you see much of a difference in how you were writing songs over those periods.
I'm probably more careful about it now, but that's, I was under pressure in the early days to write because I think there was a general expectation that I would have something ready to kind of kick off every album or every recording session, or if Decca gave us some time, that I would have something ready. So I would often be writing under pressure. So I don't say that was a bad thing, but that's
right.
A very different thing. Now I can be really selective and just choose myself, please myself.
Well, early on, also, those early Moody Blues albums, you had 5 people writing songs for them. Yet you often wrote the singles. Were you sort of aiming to write like the single in that time? And just because of the fact that there were so many people writing albums, was it sort of competitive to get your songs on the records?
No, I think there was an understanding that each guy would have a certain number of songs.
So did that mean that you wrote less? I mean, like in the later albums, you carried more of the songwriting load, like in the 80s. Were you actually writing more songs then? Or was it just a matter of that there's more emphasis on the songs you were writing?
Oh, I was always writing lots of songs. And I've got lots of bits now that I could finish off if I wanted to. No, I was always writing lots of things, but I had a different style. So Mike Pinder and I was from an old-fashioned school, so I'd have everything done before I played it to anybody. And I'd know exactly what the drum should be and the bass line should be. Studio time was very precious to me. So Mike Pinder was the same. So he'd present a song and it would be a finished song. And he'd know exactly what he wanted you to play. And the same with me. Other guys would kind of knock it up in the studio and look for ideas from other people that were there, and hope something would work, and it often did.
Were
A
you
different way of writing.
were you often like the sort of chief arranger then? Like when, if John Lodge would come in with a song, you would sort of work it out together what the instrumentation would be?
I think a lot of those things happened very quickly for me, because I didn't like to hang around. If somebody didn't know what the plan was, I'm just one of those awkward people who would just say, "Oh, come on, just do it. Do it like this." That's it. Oh, great, and then we'd be off.
When you joined the Moody Blues, they've been known as more of an R&B group, like when Denny Lane was in there. When you joined, did the Moody Blues kind of shift more toward what you were doing, or did you sort of start off kind of in the mode of what the Moody Blues were, and then it kind of gradually evolved into something else?
The three guys that Mike, Graham, chiefly, and Ray, after Clint, the original bass player, and Denny had left, which was quite... I mean, the band wasn't together for that long. The band was put together in Birmingham around, really, Denny Cordell and the song Go Now. And it was absolutely brilliant. And Denny's voice on that was just perfect. The three guys that were left after, it all happened very quickly. Clint, bass player, left. Denny left. The three guys that remained wanted to change the way things... They knew that... they knew, like most people, right, that doing cover songs wasn't where it wasn't going to take you many places. So Mike was the one that called me, and he really wanted to change the band to doing our own material. And that's why I suppose they were interested in me.
Well, and your material was so melodic and different from, obviously, that R&B approach.
The band became what the three guys that brought me to the band wanted it to be all along. It became the right Moody Blues for everybody, for all five people.
When you wrote Nights in White Satin and Tuesday Afternoon, which both were on Days of Future Past, which was the first album that came out with you and John on it, did you write those knowing of the concept of, each song is going to be a part of the day, so you were taking like afternoon and night, or had you written those and kind of fitted into what the concept of that album became?
Nights I'd written, and maybe that had something to do with Decca's idea about the... it was Decca's project. No matter what anybody else says, there was no plan from us. We didn't have anything. We only had a debt, We were living off our girlfriends. So we didn't have any plan or strategy. But Nights was already done. And a lot of people in Decca believed in it. A lot of people didn't. It meant nothing to me. I never thought anybody was ever going to hear it. But a lot of the elderly gentlemen in Decca really liked it. Really liked that. Now, that was recorded for the BBC first, I think, in the May of 1967. And so it already existed. But we didn't record it until a bit later on for the Days of Future Past. We didn't record it with Decca till the Days of Future Past sessions. Nights was already done. So that wasn't written for that album. But Tuesday Afternoon... Yes, when the initial discussions with Decca and the sort of concept idea of this demonstration stereo record, because that was what it was meant. It was a budget price album, a demonstrate. Nobody ever thought it would have any success. But they suggested this idea of a day in the life of one going through the day. And Peter Knight was part of that, of course, as well, with his orchestral arrangements. And then I said, well, I'd like to do the afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, which I did. And Peter Knight only used three. Peter Knight in his orchestrations, if you listen to that album, only used three themes, which was Tuesday Afternoon, Ray's song Another Morning, and Nights in White Satin. All the orchestral parts on Days of Future Past refer to those three songs.
Right.
None of the others.
Yeah, it comes in as a sort of overture and then sort of keeps recurring. So Tuesday Afternoon, you went out and you wrote it. Did you write it on like an acoustic guitar? And, there's this part obviously in the middle of it where, the tempo changes and it's this pretty, it's this shift that we're all used to because we've heard the song so many times and such a beautiful song. But when you write it, did you have those two distinct parts, together? Like did it just come, or was it more like you wrote the Tuesday afternoon part and then came up with this bridge that just was in this different time signature?
I like those tempo change things. I don't do them so much now because I like time code on recordings. It's so much more fulfilling to be able to get around. But I like those time chose things that I used to do because you could sort of fall into it. I came back to my parents' house where they were living in the West Country, and I got my guitar. I went out in a field and I wrote Tuesday afternoon, and I just sat there and wrote it. And I like the idea of, after the first bit, just falling into something different. That's what it always felt like to me. There was no plan. I never thought anybody was ever going to hear it. It was just a thing, just another one of my songs I was throwing up against the wall.
Well, the origins of that album are so idiosyncratic for, what became one of the classic rock albums, just this demo Decca thing, as opposed to afterwards where you guys were more in charge of what you wanted the vision of it to be.
Yeah. By the second album, that Decca had just said, they literally did. Sir Edward Lewis said, I don't know what you boys are doing, but people seem to like it, so here's some studio time.
Another song that you did, a few albums later was Question, that also has two different distinct parts, but that's one where you actually did have two different songs you're working on that you figured out how to put together, right?
Yeah, I did, because it was really late at night. I knew there was a session on the Saturday, and like 10 till 1 on the Saturday, and I knew the other guys were expecting me to have something for it, and I had the fast bit. Yeah, and I knew how exactly, because I had a big 12-string guitar, and I knew how that was going to work, and I knew how the bass was going to go, and I anticipated. I think I knew what Graham would have done, was going to do, because he was quite predictable, which I loved. He was quite predictable in the kind of rhythms that he used, and that he thought worked for him, and which I really loved that. And so, I kind of knew how that would be. And then I had the slow bit as well, which I could never really turn into a full song. So at about 2 or 3 in the morning, it must have been, I just gave up. I didn't give up. I thought, they might work together and lyrically, and they might express something. So that's what happened. I played it to the other guys the next day. They didn't even think it was 2 songs. It's just like, oh yeah, we'll do that then. And then we did it. And I think it was maybe the quickest record we ever made. There's hardly any double tracking on the record. And Mike did his bit very simply and very quickly.
So you not only had the 2 different songs, but you had lyrics for both of them.
Yeah.
Do you usually write lyrics and music together, or does one come first?
That's a funny old question. Yes, that's the classic old songwriter's question. The phone call comes first. I like to get a groove going on guitar or keyboards, and then something will appear that will suggest the lyric. And then I do have lots of bits written down that I think are quite interesting. It wouldn't be interesting to anybody else, but I think they're quite interesting. So just little phrases and things. And so that's how it usually happens. I get a groove going, and then the rest kind of fits into place. I think somebody once said, it's 3% inspiration and 97% hard work. And that's very true.
So you'll have like notebooks where you'll write down phrases, and then, when you're coming up with the music, you'll think, oh, this sort of fits into that.
I have notes. I'm always writing with a purpose. I don't look around later for things. I'm always going at it with a purpose, and I roll these phrases around in my head, and then they get done in a song.
In general, when you would write for those, Moody Blues albums up to, like the early 70s, would the songs you'd be writing kind of be writing to fit what you felt like the mood of the album was or the theme of the album was? Or was it the other way around where you would write songs and they would think, oh, this is maybe the direction this new album's going to go?
I think that was true in certainly in Lost Chord, because we thought after Days of Future Past, we thought, oh, that sort of give it a concept idea. That's not a bad idea, really. And Decca had given us this studio time. So I don't know, if probably Graham came up with in search of a lost chord, because I remember Mike used to play it on the piano. Mike could play like he was in a pub piano, which I was admired at that kind of way of playing. And I think he did the old Schnozzle Durante thing, Jimmy Durante thing, in search of the lost chord. And I have to admit that's where it came from. But we thought it was a nice idea, so we were looking everywhere for the lost chord. And Threshold of a Dream started to get a bit more kind of nebulous. Children's Children was really Tony Clark's album, but something that he wanted to do, space kind of thing. Yes, so sometimes I did write songs that very easily could be just turned. That story idea would very helpfully help me to finish off a song.
So after Seven Sojourn, you guys took a 4-year break. You had an album that you did with John Lodge, and you had a single, Blue Guitar, in which you were backed by 10cc. How did you end up working with 10cc on one song?
It was recorded before the Blue Jays album with just me and Eric Stewart, Lol Cream, Kevin Godley, and Graham Gouldman played bass. So after Blue Jays, they were just looking for, hey, like, have you got something else? And there wasn't anything. And I said, well, I did this thing called Blue Guitar with 10cc. Oh, I'll put that out, in your both names. And it's like, oh, well, okay, then, yeah. So that's what we did. So it was recorded before the Blue Jays album up in Manchester. I was a director of the Strawberry Studios in Manchester with my friend Eric Stewart.
Oh, okay.
And that's where it was made, yeah.
So were they just, it happened to be available and you said, hey, I have this new song, let's just go in the studio and record it?
Well, they were called Hot Legs at the time, and they'd supported us, I think, somewhere, maybe on the last British tour that we did before the the moving apart. I wouldn't know what to call it. It wasn't splitting up, but before the going in different directions time. And they were called Hot Legs, and they were just friends of mine. Eric was a dear friend since the 60s. And so it was just a friend of mine anyway. So, and then they started that studio. They were all based in Manchester, and I just used to go up there a lot and just play. They were just having fun. The studio was successful.
Right.
And as a group of people, they were having fun. And I think it was only after that they formed themselves again from Hot Legs into 10cc. I'm not sure Graham was in Hot Legs.
He wasn't. I wasn't aware that song was recorded so early then. I was thinking it was more in like that 74 era, because that's when that finally came out.
I think it was maybe 74. I think I did record it in 74, but I think Blue Jays was a bit later than that, wasn't it?
Then the album Octave came out back with the Moody Blues regrouping, and then there was another 3-year break, and then there was Long Distance Voyager. And Long Distance Voyager seems like the start of this totally different period. Did it feel that way to you?
Well, yes, because it was it was because Mike and Tony had left, so we had a new producer and a new keyboard player. It was a different group of people in the studio altogether.
And, you had The Voice, which was a wonderful song, and these are sort of catchy songs. There's more sort of electronics in them. It's sort of an up-to-date sound for what was then 1981. But it also, I was thinking about how like The Voice and Your Wildest Dreams both still have these very adventurous bridges where it's like the bridge isn't just like a few lines. Like it's actually this whole other, major section of the song. And so in a way, it still kind of harks back to your other songwriting in that you're just using, sort of shifting the scenes within the songs, despite, it also being a catchy radio pop song.
Well, thank you.
were you sort of consciously still sort of thinking, I really like having these other bridges in these songs, or consciously trying to balance this sense of kind of ambition within the songwriting structure with also trying to keep it contained with something that, would be a catchy song?
No, I like that movement. I like that falling into something else and to open another door and go into another room in a song. And I love that feeling of like, oh, what's happened? I was going along quite nicely and this happened. Oh, that's great. So I like that. So lucky to be songwriters, so lucky to have the freedom to not be under pressure to, I'm in an organization, lucky enough to be asked to be in an organization called SODS, Society of Distinguished Songwriters, and a different king every year. And I was King Sod for 1 year. And I've been in the organization since the early 1980s. And so many of the writers, that from my time, really, from the 60s and 70s, were under such pressure, not being performers. They were under such pressure to come up with something and to have to compromise on their own, integrity. No, integrity is not the word, but on their own, what they'd really like to have done. But it doesn't matter, they got the song away and they got the song heard. And I'm just lucky enough to never have had that pressure. Ever since I was a boy, when I was with Marty Wilde, when I was able to record a few things, I was bullish enough to just do what I wanted to do, to say, no, I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll do what I want to do. And I'm still standing.
Well, last year you were appointed Officer of the Order of the British Empire, an OBE. Did you ever think that you putting songs out in the world would result in something like that?
How could I possibly think that would happen? It was a great honor because the Queen honored me with that particular title. But the Queen passed not long after that. And so I was actually presented with the medal for it, which is very beautiful, at the investiture ceremony in Windsor by the King. So I was awarded it by the Queen, but given it by the King, which is fantastic.
What was that day like for you when you were there? Did it feel like the capstone of something?
You mean the investiture day in Windsor? Yeah. It was the day of the most kindness I've ever known. I wish I could have turned up with 5 different tour managers that I've worked with and walked them through and said, now this is how it should be done. Look, you see, I'm going to this person. They know all about me. I'm going to another room here, which is just as beautiful. And they know all about me too, because I'm going through this beautiful castle and everything is set up. Everything has been thought about with kindness and with care. And that's the great impression for me and my family from that day, was that everybody knew. Nobody, people like me expect somebody to say, no, I'm told you're a musician. And what do you do? And I'm from that generation where people say, no, what do you do? I'm told I should have heard of you. Nothing like that at all. Everybody knew exactly what everybody was. And it was so kind and so beautiful. Yeah, there was a lot of love in that castle. For me and my family, it's just tremendous.
That's great. And again, you're touring now. I've seen some clips on YouTube of you playing like Question, for instance, and the audience is singing the entire song with you, or as much of it as they can. Is that ever anything you would have expected when you were writing these songs that so many years later people would just be coming out just to sing them and share them with you?
I didn't expect anything. I didn't know. I still don't know what's going to happen next week, really. So I can't say that. I said at the beginning, there's no plan, there's no strategy. So I don't know. No, of course, could I ever imagine? No, I couldn't possibly imagine that.
And again, you're playing songs from, sort of the 80s and beyond. Were there sort of two sets of Moody Blues fans that kind of merged, or is it all just been one continuum of the people who, were on board for, the story in your eyes are also the ones who were really enjoying, your Wildest Dreams?
There are different generations involved because Wildest Dreams, I think, probably started with, it was a buzz with Long Distance Voyager, but then Wildest Dreams really introduced the Moody's to a whole new audience, a new generation. And you could see the generation changing. So, a lot of people of my age now who were there when Days of Future Past and Lost Chord came out, they're just don't go to concerts anymore, or it's a different kind of generation. But I think mostly the generation that's with us now is from the time of Wildest Dreams, and that kind of joined us then, and then learned about the other stuff that we'd done earlier, and then people join along this road at different times. So. But I could definitely see a change with Wildest Dreams. The audience changed with Wildest Dreams, yes. The generation changed.
When you're performing these songs, do you feel sort of an equal emotional connection to all of them? Or are there some that are especially like, that's the one that's kind of feels most relevant or close to my heart right now?
Songs have that, and music, and we all know this, have the ability to put us in a time and place and evoke memories. But they do, particularly for me. Songs are a wonderful way of remembering where and what. I can remember everything about where I was when I wrote a particular song, and that's an amazing thing, isn't it? Because I think it's just such a concentration of kind of effort and thoughts that it stays with you. And so some of these songs mean so much to me because they take me to a place where the emotions were really high and something was going on that was really important to me. And and I don't say it was expressed in the song, not at all, but the place and the time and the experience and the emotions were so strong that I'm taken back to exactly that moment.
Has the experience of performing live changed over the years? Like how you would feel when you were performing songs at these big concerts in the 70s versus, how you're performing them now?
Well, we were two bands in one, because we were a recording band that had a style of recording with the drums quite far back and the acoustic guitars forward and the voices built around the voice and Mike's Mellotron. And that was the recording band. On the road, we were, giant Marshall stacks, 800 watts each, and crash, bang, wallop, and had to do things in a different way. So I think it got louder and louder and louder. Now, that was the thing that's changed is the volume. I started off with an AC30 on stage, and then it went to a 50-watt Marshall, then it went to a 200-watt Marshall, then an 800-watt stack. Then during the 80s, it kind of came back as PA systems got better so that you didn't have to throw it out from the stage, but it would come from the PA. And now I'm back to pretty much like it was in the beginning, which I really like. It's a much quieter feel. I don't say that I'll always be like that, but that'll always satisfy me. But I was not sorry to get rid of to bring the volume back. And then my acoustic guitars that I bring from home sound so nice. They shouldn't be overpowered by just sheer volume of other stuff.
It looks like you're playing a 12 string, and probably one that you've played for a long time.
I have quite a few guitars. I have some beautiful McPhersons that I've only come across recently. They're fantastic road guitars. Yeah, few of the guitars I've had for a very long time. And some I've just, I use a lot of different tunings, so I change guitar quite a lot. But each of these guitars is so beautiful and chosen very carefully, and really is the heart and soul of these songs.
And you really have one of the, just the distinct, beautiful voices in rock, and you still do this many years later. What do you do to preserve your voice and keep that quality?
That's sad to say. Nothing really. I mean, unfortunately, I don't look after my voice. My voice looks after me. That's it.
I mean, you're still singing, Nights in White Satin and all of these, you're hitting these notes. So whatever it is you're doing or not doing, something is working there, because you still sound like yourself and haven't, it doesn't sound like you're changing the keys on your songs like a lot of older musicians do.
No, they're in a range that I feel comfortable with. Yeah.
There's no such thing as a Moody Blues reunion at this point because of who's not around. Would you go back and play with John Lodge again, or do any sort of more formal Moody Blues related tour or project?
I'm lucky enough to be able to do what I want to do. And as long as I can do that, I'm going to do what I want to do. I felt when Graham passed, Graham loved the Moody Blues so much that he always made it happen. He kept it together and made it happen. And since his passing, it can't be the Moody Blues anymore. It isn't the Moody Blues anymore. And I don't want to be in a tribute band with other people who just weren't there. And I think it's dishonest. I think that stuff is dishonest. Personally, this is just my opinion. It's not the opinion I expect anyone else to take. But if I go and see somebody, I want to see the person who played and sang that song that I loved so much. I want to see the person who sang that song and who played that song. If I can't see that, then I won't bother. I'll just listen to the record. I don't want to hear somebody else do it. I don't want to hear a tribute band.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking to me for this. And I hope you have a wonderful time while you're here in our beautiful city of Chicago. I know you've been here many times before. I don't know if you have any distinct Chicago memories to share, but I hope you make some happy new ones.
Oh, I can't. What a lovely thought. Yes, I've got very fond memories of being here, and the club that we played when we very first came would have been 68, and a psychedelic club, and I think the light show was the top of the bill. It's fine by me. It was very cold, I know that, and but what a city, man! I drove in with my tour manager, and we just. You see that skyline and you approach it and you think, oh man, I'm so lucky. And we both sort of slowed down the car and said, man, we're so lucky to be doing this, to be driving to this great city, and somebody's given us a job, given us a gig. And here we are again, coming to this great, we just caught it at that time of night when it just looks so beautiful, and everything is kind of silhouetted. I'm very lucky and very grateful, and lovely to be here. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky to have you here as well. Thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate it. It's a real honor to get to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
That's all for episode 110 of Caropop. Thanks so much to Justin Hayward for revisiting the creative dynamics behind his groundbreaking work with the Moody Blues and taking us up to present day. He still sounds fantastic. Go to justinhayward.com to listen to and buy his solo music, including his most recent albums, Spirits of the Western Sky from 2013. You also can order Justin Hayward merch and read about his 2024 tour dates, scheduled mostly for England in March. There's a Justin Hayward Twitter account @HaywardMusic and one on Instagram @JustinHaywardMusic. Caropop is produced by Chris Swake, who I know is out there somewhere. I'm Mark Caro. Please follow Caropop on Twitter and Instagram @CaroPopcast. You can follow me as well @MarkCaro, @MarkCaro. Also, please visit Caropop.com, where you can support this podcast by becoming an official Caropop friend or contributing whatever you want via PayPal. We're dedicated to keeping Caropop free and sustainable, and we appreciate your help. Please share this episode, subscribe, tell your friends, and tune in again next week for another Caropop conversation. Thanks.